Well, hello, and welcome to the Coaching Business Spotlight Show. I'm your host, Kat Connect, and today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is marketing. It is my favorite topic for so many reasons, and I'm going to take a deeper dive on it today to look at some aspects of marketing. One reason is because I am hosting a free workshop on, I think it's April 27th, the last Monday in April, 11 a.m. Pacific time. It's called Activate Your Marketing. And it is for coaches to take a look at your business, what it is that you most want to accomplish right now in letting people know what you do and having them sign up for your services. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of a coaching business. But I want to make a distinction right now between that and what is important about marketing, at least what is important to me about marketing. And as I was preparing for today's show, I had a memory of when I was a kid. I think so much we can discover about our authentic selves, about how we best express ourselves if we think back to when we were children before so many things got shut down, right? So as a kid, I used to there were two things that I loved to do with the kids in my neighborhood. There was a group. I lived out in the country, but maybe there were 5 or 6 kids in my same age range, and we would get together a lot on summer days especially, and we'd be looking for something to do. And I was a kid who had ideas about what to do, whether it was playing house or going on an adventure or putting on a play. I would say those were my top 3 things to do. And I what I loved is, I'm gonna say enrolling, although I didn't think of it would use that word at the time, is more it was like getting people to get on board with what I wanted, was offering them a viewpoint of themselves that was inspiring. I'm remembering specifically if there was a boy who like, "I don't wanna play house," I could say, "Guess what? You can be a cowboy, and you can have that gun in your holster, and you can say, 'Shoot 'em up,' or whatever cowboys say." So talk to my friends and give them a picture of what was possible for them. That's what I did as a kid naturally, because I was really excited about these activities, and it's something that I have brought to the marketing of my coaching business. Another thing that just came to me today, I was writing my blog. I've been thinking a lot about the troubles that are happening in our world, the challenges, the chaos, the destruction, things that are very upsetting to me. And in my personal life, I am taking action on them. I am participating as a citizen of the world in helping to make a difference. In my business, I've been thinking about this a lot. Okay, so I care about things happening in the world, and I believe that my business is here to help that. And if you are listening to this podcast and you are a coach, then your business is also here to help people right in these times that we are having. I remember back to the pandemic when I really questioned, how was I gonna market my business now? What was I gonna say? People were in lockdown, shelter in place. Who cares about building a fulfilling career right now? I found out a lot of people cared about it. It actually brought people to a clear sense of, "Oh, I need to make this life count for something. I wanna make my life count for something. I wanna do something while I'm here. I wanna actually make a positive difference." So as a coach, that's what you're here to do, and that's what you're here to help your people understand about themselves right now. It can be thought that spending time on coaching is selfish, and it's exactly the opposite in my mind. If you really take the time, energy, and money to invest in yourself, to get to know yourself better, what you're here to do, and to get into action and creating that is the most selfless act I know, because it's really about being in service of something bigger than yourself. So this is where I think marketing is and this may be a shift in how you think of it or look at it. And I'm going to be honest, I don't always look at it this way. because I can get bogged down in negative thinking as easily as anybody. But here's when I really take the time to think about what's true, about what I want to say to people, to let them know about my services. Of course, I have a business academy for coaches. I want all the coaches I can possibly get to train to have successful businesses. I want that. That's a desire of mine. But in my marketing, I always want to offer hope and inspiration. Always. That's what I really want. So there's the two things, and I found that they can live together. We all need hope. Hope is what inspires us to think creatively, to bring our best selves forward, to be of service, to have joy even in times of turmoil, to face our challenges and get past them. Hope. So the number one thing, first thing I want to talk about today is how you can bring inspiration and hope to your people. So marketing is simply putting a message out. It can be online, it can be at a networking group, it can be a message that you bring to one person at a time, it can be in an email, it can be at a party. So marketing is when you are talking about, whether it's in written form or verbal form, when you are talking about your coaching services, your coaching, what it is that you help people with. Marketing is simply talking about what you help people with. Think of it like that for a minute. What is your story? When you think about the people you most want to help, what is a story that you have that you believe will bring them inspiration and hope? That's my question. And I'm going to dive down into this piece a little bit first. Because you have more than one story. We all do. I have a story that if you've read my book, you know this story. If you're in my program, you know this story because I use it as an example of a marketing story. Even though it's something that happened to me over 50 years ago as a teenager, I was kidnapped. I was held in a very traumatic experience. And there was a huge learning for me in that experience. It was huge. In that experience, I learned how I had choice, even in a dire situation, life-threatening, scary as all get out. I had a choice. And I learned that, and I took that learning with me into the rest of my life. And it is still something that I feel it in my heart, even right now as I'm talking about it. So it's a story that has nothing to do with coaching, has nothing to do with helping coaches with their business. It is a personal story about a teenager who went through a terrifying experience, came out the other side with a deep learning about life and how it can go. As a marketing story, that's how I'm going to say how I use it. I use it to inspire people. It's dramatic, so it gets their attention. And it's true. So there's a complete authenticity to it about myself and what I learned and how I've used it. And then I apply it. So when I'm talking, using this story to talk about my coaching business, I really want my potential clients to know that they too have a choice about what they want to do with their lives, how they want to live their lives, what's important to them, the voice they're listening to in order to create that life for themselves. And there's more to it in my marketing story. It's like I can find so much in that story. There are several lessons that I learned in that experience and since then that have built off of that experience that I love to share in my marketing message. So that's just one story. I want to bring in another point here. Just like the basic point of my message today is that it is our personal stories that we most want to hear from each other and we most need to hear. The personal stories that have in them a lesson, have inspiration, have something that the person listening or reading that story can take for themselves. Here's another example. This just happened yesterday, right? The day before I'm recording this podcast. So one of the things that I have loved doing in my life is weaving. Weaving. I did weaving as a another thing I did as a teenager, I took classes and courses. I got a beautiful loom. I learned how to weave wall hangings. I found a way to express myself. I found that it anchored me. Weaving anchored me personally. It brought me such joy. And I have a creativity around bringing colors and shapes together in a way that is appealing. So I found this talent I had and this love I had, and I put it into this weaving, and I did it for many years. At one point, I had my own showing at Gettysburg College, and I had my weavings in stores, and I was making money at it. There's so much that I could tell just about that one experience, but this is what happened yesterday. I saw there was somebody here in Ojai who was having a little mini weaving class. It was 2 hours, and it was this very simple kind of weaving because 'cause I've gotten away from weaving. I sold my loom. I haven't done any weaving in probably 15 years. So it's really feels like something from my past, but I was excited to see what might I learn now. So there's lesson number 1 I got. It's really fun to keep learning, even though I might have thought, "I've learned how to weave. I know how to do this. I learned a lot of different ways." And actually, I'm not even doing it anymore, but there's something in me that got called to that. So that would be my number 1 message that I could bring as a marketing message is that how fulfilling it is to keep learning things you already know to get a deeper experience of them and things that are totally new, which it turned out this weaving class was. Even though I had done weaving before, this was a very different way of weaving. The class was teaching how to, we made pot holders. I'm just going to say it was making a pot holder using a really little loom, but it was actually learning how to weave with my fingers with the pot holder frame. And so then I could move on to other designs and colors and do some of the things in the past that I had loved doing. I started doing it with the thought, I should know how to do this. I've done weaving for so many years, but this was a new technique. And I found there was a challenge to it. And I hit a place where I had a voice in my head saying, you should know how to do this. This is an area you should bring something to. You should actually be, I don't know, I'm going to say, like one of the stars here. Had any of you ever had that voice in your head? You should already know how to do this. But I had literally never done this type of weaving before. That's the funny part. I had never done it. It was very different. Using my fingers. It was all about my fingers and nimbly, which is not a strength of mine. That's what I've discovered. Oh, this kind of weaving is not a strength of mine. The weaving on a loom is where you push down petals and you get this big gap and you throw a shuttle through, and that used my strengths. This did not. So I had a challenge where I didn't know how to do something and I had to make a choice. Suffer through, figure it out on my own, or ask for help. I'm going to pause here a moment because what I found in that moment was a choice that I make all the time in my business. It hit me as I was having to make this choice about something that had no significance in the world. It had no significance whatsoever in life. It was just for my own joy, but I had to make a choice. Now, what I got in that moment was that often in my daily work, I make the choice to suffer through and figure it out myself because I have what I call a saboteur that tells me I should already know how to do this. I teach marketing and business skills to coaches. I'm supposed to know how to do it all, but I don't because almost every day there's something new. There's been a new development in technology. There's an AI thing that's happening. There's some new piece of information that I've gathered from going to another course or just talking to a person. It's new. So even though I know how to do this, when there's something new, I get challenged, just like everybody. And it's in that moment that I often have made the choice, as I just said, and sometimes I make the choice to get help. What I discovered in this weaving class was how much more fun and easy that was. And I did not know, it wasn't like there was a whole big uproar in the group. Oh my gosh, Kat doesn't know what she's doing. Nobody cared. And if they did care, it actually helped them to learn because the teacher was now explaining exactly what my challenge was about and how to overcome it. So I asked for help, raised my hand, and I got the help. I didn't have to suffer through. I figured it out. And other people in the group were also helped as well. Okay, the other learning I got, I reached a point almost near the end. I was almost done and I couldn't figure something out. And now I have to ask for help a second time. And I didn't. I'm going to tell you the truth. I didn't ask for help. I just thought, I'm going to take this home and figure it out. About at that same moment, a woman sitting right next to me, I looked over at her pot holder and she was having the exact same issue as me. And she had the exact same response. I'm just going to pack this up and do it at home. And then she had a friend next to her said, no, get some help. Ask the teacher. So she did. And when she asked the teacher for help, I piggybacked on it, looked over the shoulder, had the teacher help me too, got my weaving back on track. So that's a little story that I could use in my marketing. So I wanted to tell those two stories to give you an idea of the range. Okay, so one that traumatic, held at gunpoint, teenager, kidnapped story, right? Very dramatic. I had a very clear point. Story yesterday, a really simple experience, might not be all that interesting if I were just go blah, 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 and I went to the class and then this happened and then this happened and then this happened. What you want to do when you're using a story for marketing is you want to be very clear on the point you're making and you want to have a thought in your head before you even start writing it. How am I going to tie this in to the people I most want to communicate with about this issue? And how am I going to tie it in to my coaching business? So I want to really have that clear. I want to bring all these things together for you today. So you want to make the world a better place. Let's say if I'm going to be talking like Miss America, bring world peace. If you're a coach, I know that's true. You actually want to do something good in the world. You have stories, things you've lived through, authentic, inspiring stories about your own life, having overcome challenges, having reached dreams, having learned things, stories that will help your potential clients connect to what's true for them and bring them hope and inspiration. The key is bringing those things together, is thinking first about okay, here's what's happening in the world, or here's what I care about. And I want to bring hope and inspiration. And I wanted to give people hope and inspiration very personally about my own coaching services that could help them. Literally, here's something that could help you. That's a tactical piece. And if you don't choose to contact me about my services, here's a message that could help you. Then you're thinking about what are the stories of experiences you've lived through that you can connect to your ideal clients, circumstances, challenges, and to your coaching business. And then you want to tie those all together for people like I'm doing today. I'm giving you an example of how to do that. And it does not have to be hard. There certainly does not have to be anything icky, any kind of hard sell in it at all. I actually recommend there is none. Here, I'm going to bring a third story forward. So I was having a brunch with someone, another coach, a couple weeks ago, And we were just talking and chatting about things and sharing stories personally. We were sharing personal stories. And this person told me a story about just something in their life. And there was something in that moment that caught my attention about authenticity. Because this person was just sharing a real true story, and they were telling me the whole truth about themselves. It wasn't all prettied up. It wasn't all making them look good or bad. They were like, "Here's a thing that I lived through, and it was a challenge, and wow, and it's still vulnerable to talk about it." And there was something in the authenticity. That word is highly overused, I believe, but I don't know a better word. I felt the truth of this person and their story, and it connected to me in a way I don't even have words for. Something opened up in me about myself. I felt I felt, "Oh, there's something I protect myself from." Exactly kind of thing this person is sharing with me. I've had a thought, if other people know that about me, they're gonna think less of me, or it's not actually gonna be helpful. Why would I tell that story to people? I'm making kinda some of these up because, like I said, it didn't actually I didn't connect with me on such a wordy level, but I felt it in my heart. This is true, and what inspired me was I could tell people, I can show that part of myself too, and I just felt something light up in me. Oh my gosh, I don't have to hide this part of me at all, because it's actually really worthwhile, just as worthwhile as every other part. The part that I might have thought was, again, all those things, not worth sharing, maybe a little negative. I'm making that up, but it inspired me. So that's another piece I want to make sure you get from my message today is that the best stories, if we could go A, B, C, D, E, as I'm going through this podcast today, this piece, put it in it, are the ones that are really authentic. You are telling a truth about who you are, what you care about. It could be a mistake. I get this so often from the people who are in my training course because there is a whole module on storytelling. I teach storytelling. I have a template for how to put the story together, a lot of training on the purpose of the story in your marketing. But there's a piece that sometimes I get pushed back on because I'm asking my the participants in my program to come up with some stories that put them in a lower light than they might like to present to people, or in a place of, like in my story, of, like, really vulnerable and dark. And they're like, "I don't get how talking about this is gonna help anybody, because 'Cause we're used to dumbing down those stories about ourselves. We might discount them or discard them because they don't seem like they would be inspiring, when actually if you do these other things that I've been talking about today, can bring the greatest inspiration to the people in your sphere. So I want to take a moment here and have you think about this for yourself. I'm just going to go over what I've covered. So the best kind of marketing is storytelling. That's my opinion. It's the most fun. It's the easiest to engage with. We understand stories. As human beings, we learn from stories. Number two is you want to make it a teaching story. So it's a true story about you, something you've experienced in life, traumatic, dramatic, simple, right? The two stories that I've shared, authentic, the three stories that I've shared. True comes from your heart, something hard, something simple, but there was a lesson in it, something you learned. You had an aha. That's what you want to bring forward, a teaching. You want it to be a teaching story. And here's the other piece, and maybe I haven't put an underline on it. You want this message, and again, this can go out on a social media post, it can be a video, this can be an email you send, it can be a talk that you do in front of a group. This can be you telling a story at a party. So many ways that you bring it. And if you come to my workshop, I'll just put in a little plug, activate your marketing. I'll tell you some ways to put it in the marketplace. So it's a story that talks about transformation, that talks about those aha moments in a way that connects with people who are dealing with stuff in the real world. Might not be in your niche at all. This is the part I didn't underline, but it has a message for people that brings them hope and inspiration. It connects to your ideal client as well. So those people who are actually in that bucket of, I'm one of your clients in your niche, they will resonate with it on a maybe an even deeper level. They'll feel known and seen, understood. It will give them hope and inspiration. And those people will be interested in your services. Number 3, it connects to the overall message of your business. So you might want to think about that. I'm giving you some places to think here. Does your business have a message? If it doesn't, it might be time to get one. What is the overall, if you take away all of the tactical pieces, what is it you would most want people to know about themselves that your coaching business is here to help people with? Think about that a minute. There's that bigger message. We call it in coaching. What is your why? What's the why underneath it all that has you endeavoring in this challenging and fulfilling business? Then, once you get these pieces, what I want for you is to know that you are making a difference in the world by putting your message out there. We call it marketing because it connects to our services, because it connects to our business. We want people to buy our services. Yes, we do. That's why we call it marketing. We're going to, just like when I was a kid, even though I didn't call it marketing at the time, that's what I was doing to my friends. I was enrolling them in something that's good for them. It's good for me, and it's good for the world. Those would be the 3 layers. It's good for the world, it's good for your ideal clients, and it's good for you. It's good for you. It connects people with those that you're here to help. Having those conversations, getting into those deep places with people, whatever that might be for you. So go out there, think about your stories. I'd love to hear from you. If you need some tips, I have a lot of ways to offer tips. I'd love to know, what are some stories you haven't thought about sharing that because of this podcast, you're sparked? And how are you going to tie that story into talking about your coaching and really making sure that it has that authenticity, the real you? I think I'm going to end with one more tip. We are all using AI here a lot more than we used to. I use it sometimes. I don't always use it, but make sure if you do use AI that you clean it back up and make sure your authentic voice is there, because that's what we need to hear: real stories, real words, your words. They don't have to be prettied up. They don't have to be perfect, because that's what connects to our hearts. And that's what actually helps people know who you are, what you do, and come from their own heart. Okay. I hope this has been helpful for you. Please let me know how this message lands with you, and I hope to see you at my workshop. There's going to be more on that in the footnotes of this podcast. April 27th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Activate your marketing. I hope to see you there. Take care.